Hi, Alex. It's great to be back with you today. And I really just want to say how much I enjoyed our last show, and I'm really looking forward to our discussion today. We have so much great content, and I know our listeners are going to find it very worthwhile. So I wanted to just say, let's just jump right in. And so, Alex, why don't you just take it away?
Well, I really will. And I want to thank everybody that gave us feedback on our original show. And of course, lots of folks are asking questions about, frankly, how to make money in this space, okay? And we're getting those questions, and we want to provide answers to every question, to every man an answer. And so we're going to address these things in a very forthright and open way. People don't want to miss out on the crypto revolution. And in fact, this is the whole reason we have this channel, is that so Christians don't miss out on the crypto revolution. We do see that the crypto revolution is happening. And so if you've got that sense about it, you're correct. And if you're tuning in and wanting to make lots of money, it's because you've probably heard about others who have made a lot of money in crypto, and there are ways to make money in crypto. We're just going to talk all about that today, and what the implications of crypto markets are for Christians, and how we can find our way through these crazy, crazy markets. Now, as we talked about in our first show, markets have a very hard time pricing innovation. And the result of that is we have very, very volatile crypto markets. And that just means that the markets go up, and they can also go way down. And they can also then again go way up again. So it's a boom and bust kind of a market, mostly because there's so much speculation about the impact of these different crypto projects. And it is true, some of these crypto projects will definitely change the world. There will be mass adoption and mass changes. And it is the case that if you get in early on some of these projects, there probably is a lot of money to be made. And lots of people have already made a lot of money. Lots of people already made a lot of money on cryptocurrency, as just about everybody knows. The first thing I want to address is the principle of the fear of missing out, commonly referred to as FOMO. FOMO is a psychological entity. It is a psychological experience that drives people to dive into the market with both hands and both feet. And it can lead to a lot of problems for folks. So the first thing that I want to do when we start talking about markets, Rick, is just to assure people that this is going to be a long-term process. That if you see crypto starting to rise, it will probably continue to rise for a while, but you can almost bet your bottom dollar that there will be a crash. So I don't want you to feel like you've missed out if you haven't gotten into the crypto game yet. You can watch prices and notice some fluctuations. And what we're going to end up recommending is really educating yourself as to how to interact with markets, how to trade, and how not to make the mistakes of typical investors. Now, this is a great time for us to mention that neither Rick nor I are a financial advisor. We don't give financial advice, and we don't recommend that you follow our advice as financial advice. We're here to educate folks about cryptocurrency and talk about how that intersects with folks who, with Christians, with folks who want to be true to their Christianity, and at the same time, not miss out on a technological trend that is surely going to change the world. In fact, Rick and I firmly believe that getting Christians into this space will increase the likelihood of the changes that are coming being positive changes, things that are good for people, things that tend to manifest Christian values as opposed to running contrary to them. So that's my opening statement on markets, if you will. So the first concept is to never trade out of the fear of missing out, and to do your due diligence. And along those lines, I believe you have a favorite Bible verse about this particular thing, Rick.
Yeah, that is so right, Alex. I appreciate that. Now, I want to start with saying we mentioned last time about how, as Christians, we live in the world, but we are not to be of the world. And that's really important to keep, our focus on that. So being in the world means we do transact in commerce. And Jesus, I'm not going to talk about this a lot today, but Jesus did present the concept of investing as a very valuable thing to do and something that we as Christians should never be afraid to participate in. And it is a part of our mandate as human beings. Now, God commands us to be fruitful and multiply. And so many people, I think, mistakenly kind of limit this to the idea of procreation, right? Having children. But, that's part of it, of course. But think about it this way. Not everyone ends up having children. So would God just cut those people out of his plan? No, that's not likely, right? We know that's not true. The fuller understanding of that command is that we are to apply good management techniques to all the resources God puts into our care, because we can either squander resources or manage them well. And when we manage them and do a good job with that, God blesses us. And then what happens is we participate in the creation of that greater abundance of resources. And so what we find is when we go about investing, and how we go about investing is so vital to our eternal future, right? Because we can do it the right way or we can do it the wrong way. And it's so very easy to slip into that attitude of being caught up in the world and its agenda. Now, the Bible does give us great advice in Proverbs 21, verse 5. And this is the Living Bible. It's a good translation for certain things. I love this, the way that it puts it. And it says, steady plotting brings prosperity. Hasty speculation brings poverty. Now, of course, no one likes the idea of steady plotting, right? That sounds just sort of awful, right? Who wants to think about that, right? I want to skip all that, most people say. But really, no one sprints to the top of the mountain, right? I mean, if you can sprint to the top of the mountain, I guess go ahead. But in terms of investing, it's a long-term process. We know that. And this verse illustrates the two sides of seeking to profit in the market. And one leads to prosperity and the other leads to poverty. Now, the New Living Translation puts it this way, and I really like this one. Good planning and hard work lead to prosperity, but hasty shortcuts lead to poverty. So if we do want to accomplish something over a great period of time, right, a longer period of time, we have to plan for it. And God's word says to apply these proper good planning techniques. And then we have to put in the effort also, as discipline, patience, and doing our due diligence, as they say. And that's what will help us to achieve prosperity. And the other side is the hasty speculation and shortcuts. And these are typically driven by greed. And just like you were talking about the fear of missing out, that's the kind of a greed mentality. Oh no, I missed it, and I have to jump in because otherwise, I'll just lose in the end. But that what greed does is that short circuits our thinking. It just stops us from thinking clearly, and then we end up acting impulsively, and that's what the Bible says leads to poverty. So You see the contrast that's mirrored here in these biblical concepts. You can either be in the world but not of the world. We plan and work hard, and that leads to prosperity. And then the idea of, if we slip into being of the world and acting rashly and out of fear, that is what's going to lead to poverty.
I really feel that way, Rick. And this is a great segue into some things you and I have talked about, which is that Christians really have a lot going for them in terms of being successful investors. There's a number of advantages that the Christian life imparts to each of us that I think lend themselves really, really well to investing. The first of these, of course, is patience and a long-term attitude towards life, okay? The people who are not saved are frequently living from, paycheck to paycheck, or cigarette to cigarette, or, alcoholic drink to alcoholic drink, or sex partner to sex partner. They're living, almost like a pinball, bouncing around in a pinball machine or something like that. Whereas, when we receive Christ and we become saved, we start to realize we're part of a much bigger picture. We have this much longer term way of thinking about life, and I think that long term thinking really lends itself well to investing. And a very closely related concept is the concept of delay of gratification. As Christians, we learn the value of, basically investing for the future, whether that means investing in our family, whether it means putting the focus on our family instead of some kind of fleeting sexual interest or something else that Satan throws into our path to get us off track. We keep our eyes on the prize, which is living a life that's inspired by the example of Christ, and we learn to put off earthly pleasures for the sake of this higher purpose. And delay of gratification is going to be very important for investors in the crypto space, because some of the major developments are going to be years away. We're years away from adoption in the Western world, for example. In later shows, we'll talk about how the developing world will probably adopt some cryptos pretty quickly, and some of that's already happening. But for now, it's going to be a while until blockchain technology shows up in each of our individual lives. And we just have to be patient. We have to understand that good things come to those who wait. And I feel that Christians are experienced in doing that. Don't you agree, Rick?
Oh, definitely. And these are all great points that you're bringing up. I think that the idea of being patient is something the Bible talks about, in many places. But the real point, the higher level there, like you're saying, is that big picture thinking long term, thinking about the future, and not just our future here on Earth, but even beyond that. And so when we recognize that our individual actions today do have an eternal impact, that's the Christian perspective, which, that really does talk about the idea of being in the world, but not of the world. We're not just thinking about, that it's all going to end after we die, which is what so many people mistakenly think. It really doesn't end for anyone. That's how it works. So that idea is crucial for all of us as Christians to keep in mind, and to not get caught up in the day-to-day, I need to just pay the bills and just move on to the next thing. When we can have that long-term perspective, it informs our decisions, and I think that's something that's crucial for us as we do move forward.
I think so too. It's this notion of big picture thinking. And, this is one of the biggest challenges in looking into crypto for people that are new about, regarding blockchain technology, is basically being able to see the big picture regarding the changes that are coming. And, I can just tell you right now, my Christian friends are all big picture thinkers. Everybody thinks of themselves in relation not just to their immediate set of choices, but also to the big picture. How does this play out for God's kingdom? How does this play out for eternity? And I think that lends itself very well to getting into the crypto space successfully. Another factor that I think is really important, and I'll be talking specifically about this when we get to recommendations that I have, specific recommendations that we've developed, is this idea of fellowship. The truth of the matter is that markets, particularly the crypto market, is psychologically vexing. And there are risks involved that we're going to talk about very specifically in this show. But, it's easy to get pulled off your game plan. It's easy to get pulled out of your values. All of us are susceptible to greed. And I don't want to make any bones about that. And the principles of fellowship that we learn in our Christian faith can help us create accountability so that we stay true to our values and true to our investment goals as we profit in the space. So it's also nice to have people support each other during the hard times, because there will be bear markets. And you need to have people that understand that you're in it for the long haul. Go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I'm glad you brought up that point about fellowship, because that's so important for us to realize as Christians. There's no such thing as a solo Christian. It just that just doesn't exist at all. The whole point of Christianity is that God adopts us into His family, and we are that family. We, as all Christians, are part of that family, and we're actually to use that as the wonderful resource that it is. We shouldn't deny ourselves the value that we can get from being in such a large family. And
that's right.
Our focus, in doing this channel, is to help other Christians succeed in what can be a dangerous market environment.
And folks, if you like this content, please like and subscribe, but also definitely share this. Share our content. Create your own crypto community using our resources. We would love to be the center of Christians coming together in faith and in good conscience to get into this advancing technology. So please definitely do that, folks. So now, Rick, I really do think we should talk about the risks that crypto investing can create for Christians. Okay, and number one, we've already talked about it because it's the big monster in the room, if you will. It's the big boogeyman, and that is greed. Greed is a deadly sin. And one of the things that can happen when you get into a project early is you can make a lot of money. And when greed is happening, it'll tell you that you should be going and making lots more money. Now, we talked about the fact that prosperity really is God's plan for us. And when we're following God's plan, we will prosper. It's also true that greed is the devil's side of that coin, if you will. And it can cause us to compromise our values. And I do want to be able to talk about it. We'll probably talk about it in every show, Rick. What we're doing to counter the effects of greed when the market heats up and there's all these opportunities asking us for money and so on. What do we do with our greed? So I thought I would bring that out right away as a risk. And right off the cuff, what are your thoughts about mitigating greed as we go along?
Well, the Bible really never says anything good about greed. Right? It's just not, that's one of those things that we can definitely say is we don't want to get involved in any way. And right. I think what I believe about greed is that it's just another way to say the love of money. Yeah. We know that the Bible says that the love of money is the root of all evil. And so right. I'd like to say it that way as well, to say that greed is the root of all evil, because the Bible doesn't say that we shouldn't desire to have more money. That it never says that, and that is not evil. That is not a problem. It is okay to look at the world and the markets and say, I do want to partake in that. I want to create more money. I want to, I want the blessings of God in my life. That's all very fine. But right. What greed is the desire to have more, no matter what the cost to others. We don't care at all about what happens to anyone else. I just want more for myself. And we see greed in so many places, even outside of the realm of money and finances. We can, people can be greedy for fame, for attention, for, whatever it is. And the whole point of that is the idea that I don't care what happens to anyone else. I want it all right. for myself. I want everything right. for me. It's all about me, right? And we know of course, that's wrong. And so right. that's what we have to be aware of when it comes to greed as Christians, is to, just check ourselves. Just say, well, why do I want this? Am I just thinking about myself? Or do I think, wow, if I benefit from this, then I'll have more to share? And yeah. I know that in these markets, one of the things that we see is that other people are greedy, right? I mean, there are people out there who have no problem with being greedy. They just dive right into that. So what do you have to say? I'm very glad you brought that up, Rick, because I consider that to be one of the other risks. For folks that are just getting into crypto markets, please understand
There's plenty of wonderful people in blockchain technology, and some of these programs that they're developing will feed the poor and do other very positive things to bring better medical care to third world nations. There are also bad people in the crypto space, just like they are probably everywhere. And to some extent, it could be a bit of a den of thieves if we're not careful about, who we're associating with when it comes to thinking about blockchain, when it comes to thinking about crypto investing. We're going to want to choose our allies very carefully and be mindful about where our moral center is and who we're listening to and who we're talking to. And obviously, Rick, you and I are hoping that, people will find that we're able to help people remain true to their Christian values as they get into this technological space. And we certainly don't want to ignore the fact that there's going to be people out there with a very wide variety of value systems, some of which will absolutely not match up with the Christian values we're hoping to espouse right here.
Right.
So that's a really, really great point. The third area of vulnerability that I see Christians having is the desire to trust others. We become accustomed to our Christian fellowships. We know a lot of really wonderful people, and we want to be trusting. We want to be welcoming, and we want to be in there like that. And I think those are really good qualities. And of course, similar to what we were just saying, that it won't be that simple in the crypto space. There are scams, et cetera, et cetera. And we'll want to make sure that we have sources of very accurate, helpful information, and we'll want to proceed with our best intentions going forward, and not let things like greed or something that sounds too good to be true to take over our thinking. And so, in terms of recommendations, just starting out, one of the very first things is obviously to educate yourself. And so, learn the basics of crypto. And the other thing to learn about are the basics of investing. And we've talked about some of those themes here today. So the long-term thinking, avoiding the sort of get-rich-quick kind of mentality, learning principles like dollar cost averaging, which just means putting a little bit of money into the market almost no matter what it does. As it fluctuates, just putting a little bit of money in each week or each month to increase your investment in a particular market is a really safe way to prevent yourself from getting hurt by a fear of missing out move where, oh my gosh, the market's going up, I'm going to throw all my money in. The dollar cost average is an idea where you set aside a preset amount of money, say per year or per month, that you're going to put into a market, and you put in a little bit at a time. In order to ride what we really do believe will be an eventual increase in value in the crypto space. Another idea that's really important is to formulate your investment goals at the outset and go ahead and write them down. The crypto markets are so volatile that it's very easy to exceed your investment goals in a week's time or in 2 weeks' time. And then what usually happens to the average person is they reset those goalposts. So you've now doubled your money, and people on other YouTube channels are talking about quadrupling your money. And so you let it ride. And then, of course, what happens is the market corrects, and now you've lost everything, where actually you were given a really nice opportunity there to achieve your financial goals. So I do recommend writing down financial goals, and then on a tertiary level, related to things we've talked about before, get an accountability partner who you're talking to about your financial goals, and enact those practices as you wrote them down. A couple of basic ideas are: if you double your money, it's a good time to take out a quarter to a half of your net value. And if you take out half, that means you're now playing with house money. That means you're now no longer risking any of your personal wealth, and it's just stuff that's in the crypto markets. That's just one example of a strategy. And you can make your own strategy. We will be discussing some specific strategy ideas on this channel. But the idea is that you not only have it written down, but you also have an accountability partner. We want to be everyone's accountability partner. Feel free to use the comment section to, put down your goals. And then a few weeks or months from now, if you achieve some of your goals, please put that in the comment section too. We want to hear what's working for our audience, and we want to support you. We want to be here to listen to you. And we want to be a part of what makes crypto a very positive thing in your Christian life. And then another thing about the accountability partner, just to be very specific, it can be very, very hard to sell when the market is at its top. I'm gonna let everybody know what a market top sounds like in crypto. When there's a market top happening and prices are peaking, every other YouTube channel, hopefully not including this one, is going to be trumpeting from the rooftops that the sky is the limit. You'll have experienced 4x, 5x, 10x gains. And they're going to be saying, but wait, there's more. 100x gains are around the corner. We're all going to be billionaires. Well, all I want you to know is if it sounds too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true. This is when a good, sound investment strategy is really going to help. And an accountability partner who's going to remind you, hey, you said that if it 4x'd, you were going to sell half your investment. And, and then executing that in good faith with your partner is really important. The last few recommendations that we have is definitely continue with your Christian practice. Whenever you're starting something new and, adding some of these risks that we talked about into your life, that's when you want your faith practice to be as good as it can possibly be. Okay, I'm going to church tomorrow, and I hope everybody else goes to church on Sunday too. And you want to really keep those. You want to keep those important practices in place. You want to be reading your Bible. You want to be praying regularly. Check in with God on a regular basis as you go through these changes. And yeah, go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, Alex, I wanted to jump in there because that's so vital for us as in everything we're talking about on this channel, because we all want to do well, right? And the idea is we don't want to just get ahead of someone else, right? We all want to do well and see other people succeed. We should have that concept, that idea that, and one of the reasons why we really do something, right, or our reason why we do something is just as important as the details of the plan, right? Because God blesses certain behaviors. And I wanted to bring up this other scripture that I have. It's Proverbs 21:26 in the New Living Translation. And it says, some people are always greedy for more, but the godly love to give. And so when we keep that kind of a perspective in mind, that, why do we want to invest? Why, or, what's the purpose of this? Of course, we want to have more, but we should recognize that anyone who has some money to put aside to invest, whether it's in cryptocurrency or anything else, really is already wealthy, right? We ought to have that perspective that we have to invest in an attitude of abundance rather than a fear of lack. And that is going to guarantee that no matter what happens, we keep our perspective with God and in our Christian walk, because that's that whole idea of fear of missing out. When we start getting into that any kind of a fear of lack, or that's really the bottom line of that fear of missing out, is that fear of lack. Oh, I could have had more than I have now, and that is just the wrong pathway to follow. Anything that's fear driven is not of God, and so we have to make sure that we do check ourselves and constantly think about that. And that idea of praying, like you brought up, is so valuable, because as we do plan, right, that's how we're going to achieve prosperity, is through good planning. We should pray first. We should pray during planning, and continue to pray after we plan. And then pray continually over your decisions. Now, that doesn't mean we don't take decisive action, because actually prayer should give us a conviction to act on our decisions. You brought that idea before God, you felt good about that, and then you can enact that plan, because we know that God is the one who is in control. And ultimately, what happens is in the end is up to him. And
That's
so
right.
when we take our, our best idea, we say, this looks like the good idea of what, like you said, dollar cost averaging. I'll go ahead and invest this certain amount of money that I can afford to invest. It's not going to harm my family or anyone else if I take some money and invest it, and then do that over time. And as you say, if the market goes up, great. If it happens to turn down, well, you have to say, well, that's, what can happen. We're aware of that, the way that
That's
the
right.
market. So, and
that's really so right on time, Rick. You crossed across something, but of course, tithing is going to be an important part of our Christian practice also, and we want to make sure we're tithing our profits. And that gives us more spiritual motivation to be even better investors in the future. And so just really, really great stuff. What I would end with is our final recommendation that we also already touched on is to find like-minded individuals in the crypto space. Obviously, you found a couple of folks here. Please attract other people that you think would be like-minded by sharing this video with others. And we definitely hope to see a solid Christian community emerge within the crypto space. And in our future episodes, we'll talk about why that could be so important for the way this technology unfolds over time. For now, I am just so grateful that we've been able to reach out again, Pastor Rick. I want to say thank you so much for your inspiring contributions to the show and for everything you've done to help this become possible. I'm grateful to our viewers for tuning in and being the right kind of people who may be in the right place at the right time. And so it's really exciting to be a part of it. And so I look forward so much to our next show where we'll address a lot of the things we said we would address in this show. Okay, so have a wonderful day, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you, Alex, and God bless everyone.